Daniel, sorry, you're currently on mute.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm very happy and excited to bring you once again this incredible channel cybersecurity event to our partner across the EMEA. For the first 2 days of this event, you were more than 2,000 customers to attend, so thank you so much for attending. As you know, the theme of the event is Innovate to Differentiate. So today, the technology innovation, we will help you to discover the highest growth security market in partnership with our best-in-class security vendor. And today, the market that we will address will be SASE. On the channel innovation, you will listen, and I hope influence our channel leadership panels later on. When it comes to the security innovation, I hope that you will get inspired by our keynote speaker, and today will be Misha Gleni, our security journalist and author. And finally, I will be very happy to celebrate our partnership during a ceremony of the Westcon Security Partner Awards. So my name is Daniel Urel. I'm the Vice President EMEA for Cybersecurity and Next Gen Security Solutions. Now, during these sessions, I would like that to be very interactive. So if you have any questions or you would like to make any comments, you can use the text chat. We have also a large number of virtual booths where you can live chat with our experts, private chat with them, and there is a lot of content to discover. Join also the virtual treasure hunt by finding the treasure shields hidden in the booth and make your chance to win an iPhone 12 or a Galaxy S21. And during the break, you can also test your brain and speed with our memory game to win prizes. And today, it is sponsored by Pulse Secure. But now, let's kick off this great agenda today again with Rakesh Prabhu, the CEO of Sub-Saharan and South Africa Business and Global CTO. Good morning, Rak. Over to you.
Good morning, Daniel, and thank you very much for the introduction. And good morning and good afternoon to everyone who's joining us across Europe, the Middle East, and the African continent. I really hope you've enjoyed the first 2 days of our Imagine EMEA 2021 event, and that you found the content and the discussions insightful and thought-provoking. I also trust that you've identified some ways to innovate and to differentiate in your business. So, as Daniel mentioned, it's my honor to kick off for our final day. And before I introduce our keynote speaker, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we are seeing in the market and the shift from traditional transactions to new license models, consumption billing, recurring revenues, and how this impacts the channel. So Daniel, if you can just bring, Alex, if you could bring up the next slide. You will have seen some of this over the last 2 days and called out by Rene yesterday in his introduction. The reality is that the changing models in the industry are not something that has started in 2021 or even in 2020. These shifts have been a journey going back over the last 10 years, but have accelerated rapidly in the last 12 months. They have likely been given a helping hand as a result of the COVID pandemic, as end customers have had to reorientate themselves faster to be able to deal with an operating environment that changed over weeks rather than years. Traditional projects were deprioritized to make room for enabling remote workforces and ensuring that those workforces could access the company applications, communicate effectively both internally and externally, and of course, doing it in a secure manner. At the same time, organizations are facing financial uncertainty, and large capital expenditure is probably unlikely available. Our vendors have also rapidly been moving to enabling their offerings in new ways, and that's been over the last few years as well. They've been providing more solutions through cloud infrastructure and software as a service. The combination of a changing user environment, vendors already delivering new ways of consuming technology, and the global pandemic created a perfect case for accelerated change. Where companies were taking a cautious approach to adoption of cloud and software as a service has significantly changed in the last 12 months, with all parties really being aware of the new business models. End user companies also absolutely need predictable costs at this time. And as we help them achieve this, the benefit really is that it means more predictable revenue streams for you as technology integrators, our vendors, and ourselves in distribution. But the purchase is really only the first step in the journey. And realizing this, many organizations have built out lifecycle frameworks, as can be seen in some of the snapshots on this slide. As distribution, we have a significant role to play in this new world. And that means working with all of you to ensure our approach adds value and that we remain relevant to helping you in your business. Alex, if we could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So it probably isn't a surprise to anyone at this event that software growth is growing faster than traditional infrastructure technologies. Just pick up any research report and the answer is generally the same. The focus areas may be different, they may be global or regionalized, but in each case, software purchases are outstripping other areas. The same is true in the security world. Our end customers still need the technology to secure their environments, more so than ever, one could argue, but they can choose to deploy it in different ways, and they need more help analyzing the outputs from these tools and being able to take action. The threat landscape is exponentially more complicated. The solutions to assist companies more expansive, and the data volumes available are compounded. There are so many options for companies to choose from today, for so many things that can support their business to be more agile in a different world. What, of course, is most important, though, is how that software is being decided upon, procured, deployed, and critically, how it's adopted. Alex, we go to the next slide. One key area of focus for us, therefore, is our response to managing the life cycle of these solutions. With the frameworks from the vendors for their new offerings and the demand from end users to gain maximum value from their software investments, our role is to enable you and equip you with the capabilities to manage the opportunities going forward. We're doing this with our lifecycle framework, which we call Circuit. We've called it Circuit because it's not about a movement or a transaction from A to B anymore, such as deciding, procuring, and invoicing. Rather, it's a continuous engagement that needs to be held with end customers after the purchase to help them adopt and to gain value from their investment, to help them look for potential areas of expansion or refreshing legacy technologies, as well as managing the renewal process and enabling learning, of the new features and capabilities. And so for the channel to be successful and remain relevant in this new model requires a really solid understanding of the solutions that are available and the benefits to the customers. And everyone needs to be familiar with new ways of billing and consuming the technologies. Circuit is about providing these insights in a meaningful way at the right time. So you might ask the question, well, I've already mentioned that various vendors have these frameworks in place. So what is the value of Westcon Circuit? Well, the reality is that all of these frameworks are evolving at different paces, but they still have the same fundamentals in place. Our aim as Westcon is to bring all of these into a consolidated view for you that allows you to look across all of the technologies you engage with us on and the life cycle of these in one program. So on the next slide, the way these engagements take place is changing too. The traditional emails and reminders are still very much in place, but that's rapidly shifting to a more on-demand, data-driven, and digital capability and enablement. So Circuit is one area we've built today, but it's currently internally managed. Our next step really is to make that transparently available to you, allowing you and your teams to get what you need at the right time through our platforms and enabling you to engage in meaningful and timeless discussions with your customers. And for our vendors, it's to allow us to help cooperate with you and work with you on this evolving journey. Over the past 12 months, as Westcon, we have prioritized our investments in platforms and technologies that drive new billing and consumption models. We've rapidly rolled out API integrations to a large majority of our vendors to help automate the routine requirements. And we've developed a suite of APIs that allow our customers to do the same with us. We've developed a number of specific journey portals that enable our partners to grow their skills and capabilities based on new vendor programs. And we built platforms that help us engage digitally. This event platform that we're all on today is one such example. So I'm really excited by the progress that we've made so far, but even more so by the things to come and that we will roll out over the course of this year. We want to ensure that we provide you with the insights, the enablement, and the capability to service your customers better throughout their technology journeys, and ensure that they have the ability to extract the value from the investments that they made. And as a result of that, a continuous, meaningful engagement with you rather than a purely transactional one. So we really look forward to being part of your success and also encourage that you feed back to us about what more we can do in this digital space that will assist with your growth. So thank you again for joining us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce our keynote. And we have something a little bit different today. Misha Glenny is a renowned security journalist and an author over the last 20 years of a number of best-selling books that cover topics from crime and technology and as well cybercrime. And he's prepared a mini documentary especially for this event, which I hope you'll really enjoy. So thanks again, and I look forward to engaging with you later in the panel discussion.
Let's not beat about the bush. COVID-19's economic impact will be dramatically worse than either the financial crisis of 2008 or the Wall Street crash in 1929. The World Bank is predicting an 8% decline in global GDP, while the WTO warns international trade could contract by 30%. The outbreak of trade wars between the US and China will undoubtedly compound the impact of COVID-19, making this the worst economic crisis in modern times. And it couldn't have come at a worse moment. International cooperation is at a low point, and yet collective action is needed to deal with spiraling global challenges from climate change to nuclear threats and, of course, cyber attacks. It's not looking great, is it? Hi, I'm Misha Glenny, and I've been writing about where geopolitics and crime intersect for about 2 decades now. So I'm not going to sugar the pill. There are really tough times ahead. But although the situation is critical, it's not yet hopeless. You may have heard of my book McMafia because it was turned into a TV show about traditional organized crime. But I've also written a book on cybercrime and cybersecurity. Now, I'm no techie, but I understand more than most lay people. And I can tell you that these days, cybersecurity is not just about tech. In fact, cybersecurity these days is more or less about everything. It's about politics. It's about psychology. It's about military doctrine. It's about anthropology. I know a couple of companies who employ anthropologists full time in order to better understand the threat environment. It's about risk management. It's about human rights and the law. Obviously, on one level, it's about technology. But above all else, it's about people.
As we go through this talk, bear in mind the 3 major types of cyber malfeasance: cybercrime, cyber espionage, and the big one, cyber warfare. It'll help to keep them handy. The internet is now the most contested, the most complicated, and the most coveted communications medium in the history of technology. The nature of the struggle for the internet only started to become clear in the last decade. The problem is, the more we know, the more dependent we become on internet-based technologies, the harder it becomes to understand the accelerating complexities. These issues and institutions, which you see on the screen,
heard that the video is not streaming very well and is lagging behind a bit, which obviously is going to make it very difficult to follow. So apologies for that. The team in the studio is working on it, and they're going to rerun it, and hopefully everything works according to plan.
Let's not beat about the bush. COVID-19's economic impact will be dramatically worse than either the financial crisis of 2008 Let's not beat about the bush. COVID-19's economic impact will be dramatically worse than either the financial crisis of 2008 or the Wall Street crash in 1929. The World Bank is predicting an 8% decline in global GDP, while the WTO warns international trade could contract by 30%. The outbreak of trade wars between the US and China will undoubtedly compound the impact of COVID-19, making this the worst economic crisis in modern times. And it couldn't have come at a worse moment. International cooperation is at a low point, and yet collective action is needed to deal with spiraling global challenges, from climate change to nuclear threats and, of course, cyber attacks. It's not looking great, is it? Hi, I'm Misha Glenny, and I've been writing about where geopolitics and crime intersect for about 2 decades now. So I'm not going to sugar the pill. There are really tough times ahead. But although the situation is critical, it's not yet hopeless. You may have heard of my book, McMafia, because it was turned into a TV show about traditional organized crime. But I've also written a book on cybercrime and cybersecurity. Now, I'm no techie, but I understand more than most lay people. And I can tell you that these days, cybersecurity is not just about tech. In fact, cybersecurity these days is about politics. It's about psychology. It's about military doctrine. It's about anthropology. I know a couple of companies who employ anthropologists full-time in order to better understand the threat environment. It's about risk management. It's about human rights and the law. Obviously, on one level, it's about technology. But above all else, it's about people.
As we go through this talk, bear in mind the 3 major types of cyber malfeasance: cybercrime, cyber espionage, and the big one, cyber warfare. It'll help to keep them handy. The internet is now the most contested, the most complicated, and the most coveted communications medium in the history of technology. The nature of the struggle for the internet only started to become clear in the last decade. The problem is, the more we know, the more dependent we become on internet-based technologies, the harder it becomes to understand the accelerating complexities. These issues and institutions, which you see on the screen, intertwine to form what I call a state of digital cacophony. And the normal psychological response to that cacophony is to block your ears before burying your head in the sand. And this is why the issue of communication remains so important. So it's critical to reassure people, and that means getting back to basics. Cyber malfeasance relies to some degree either on social engineering, hacking, or malware deployment, or a combination of the three. So in principle, the threats haven't changed since the late 1990s. They have become more sophisticated, more varied, and more numerous. Innovation and the proliferation of devices represent opportunities to those up to no good. And for those trying to defend the system, well, they face an issue of scale. These problems are going to be with us for quite some time, and their course will determine whether the internet ends up liberating humanity or enslaving it. Now, in the past decade, two monumental battles which have complicated these issues have broken out. The first, what can or cannot happen to personal data. Things are now really heating up on this one, especially since both the US and the EU have now decided to take on the monopolies created by the digital giants. The second battle is quite simply competition between states. Ever since the revelations about Stuxnet, a computer virus deployed by the US and Israel to disrupt a nuclear facility in Iran, we have seen countless countries develop an offensive capability. Russia used a computer virus to disable part of Ukraine's electric grid in 2015. In December, Britain's former National Security Advisor admitted the UK had used cyber in retaliation against Russia for the Salisbury poisonings in 2018. And now technology is at the heart of what some commentators are calling the new Cold War, the ever-deepening competition between the United States and China. How on earth did it come to this? Well, in order to understand that, we have to go back 3 decades. You see, at the end of the Cold War, it wasn't just communism that collapsed. For several years, the state suffered a heart attack as well, just at the moment when the planned economy of the Soviet era was being replaced by the free market system of the victorious West. Picture this. 2 Russian entrepreneurs at the dawn of capitalism. How exactly do they go about making a deal? Господин Ivanov, I am businessman from Magnitogorsk. I wish to sell you some widgets at 3 rubles apiece. Здравствуйте, господин Klimov. I like your widgets, but please, only 2 rubles and 50 kopecks. Господин Ivanov, I am cheating myself with 250. Shall we go to commercial tribunal to settle our dispute? Господин Klimov, I would like, but there is no functioning court system in Russia. The state has had heart attack, remember. However, I have friends. They belong to so-called privatized law enforcement agency. Ужас. Ну я тоже. Perhaps my privatized law enforcement agency can arrange a fair price with yours. What sociologists refer to as privatized law enforcement agencies, we call the mob or the mafia. But whatever you think about them, they were indispensable for the emergence of a market system in Eastern Europe. I was very privileged to be invited to the inaugural annual general meeting of Bulgaria's nascent capitalist class, and I treasure this photographic memento of the event. So you see, organized crime and capitalism were intimately linked in Eastern Europe and Russia from the very start. And within a decade, that culture of entrepreneurial crime had migrated to the internet. What you're watching now is an internet ad that's 20 years old, incredibly sophisticated for the time. and it drew thousands of users to carderplanet.com, which was a sort of Facebook for criminals. You could purchase the latest viruses to use against your enemies, take tutorials in the latest cybercrime techniques, buy and sell fake IDs and documents. But above all else, you could trade in stolen credit and debit card data. The reason why Carder Planet was so important, though, was because they came up with the answer to the conundrum that until then had baffled the bad guys on the web. And that was, how can I do business with this person when I know that he's a criminal, and so he's axiomatically untrustworthy? So the administrators of Carder Planet thought up the escrow system. If you wanted to sell, say, the data of 5,000 credit cards, you would send these digitally to the escrow officer at Carder Planet. Meanwhile, the potential purchaser would send e-gold, an early digital currency. The escrow officer would then send out at random some of the data to his friends in Toronto, Wellington, or Rio to use at local ATMs. And if this worked, which it usually did, then the escrow officer and friends would keep this as a fee before releasing the data to the purchaser and the e-gold to the vendor. This led to an explosion of crime over the internet, and this decade was known as the Champagne era for carders. Remember the three pillars of cyber malfeasance: cybercrime, cyber commercial espionage, and cyber warfare. It would be great if they could be policed separately, by the cops, by private intel, and by the military. But the existence of two human factors won't allow for it: hackers and spooks. When I was investigating Dark Market, which was a successor website to Carder Planet, I discovered that among its members were agents for the Secret Service, the FBI, MI6, Ukrainian and Turkish intelligence, and of course the KGB. Basically, these guys trawl the dark web trying to find out what the latest techniques are and who is using them. I also discovered that the undercover FBI agent was unwittingly investigating the Secret Service agent and vice versa. All this became clear when the amazing people at Carder Planet organized the first and, as far as I know, only public conference for criminals. Yes, in 2001, they held the first worldwide Carders conference in Odessa, Ukraine. I was thrilled when I found on the dark web the press release for the conference. But I was struck by the opening statement. It's in Russian, so I've translated it for you. Once again, the critical issue of the inadmissibility of any action in relation to the billing system, banks, or any other financial institution in Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus was raised. Furthermore, the family will deal ruthlessly with any carder found engaging in such activity. I was shocked. They go to all the trouble of organizing a public conference for criminals, and then the first thing they do is tell the attendees that they can't commit crime. I mean, what's the point? So I asked one of the administrators what that was about. He said, you see, the day before the first worldwide conference, the KGB visited us all the way from Moscow, and they said, we don't care how many credit cards you steal from the West, but if you touch anything in Russia, we'll have you in a virtual Siberia before you can say Novichok. And so we got the message. And another thing, the agent said, if your services are required for the purposes of national security, you will jump to it. Crime and intelligence work on the web are deeply entangled. By the way, it's not just Russia, and it's not just criminals and spooks. Armed forces around the world have now deemed cyber to be the fifth military domain, and interestingly, the first man-made one. You meet everyone on the dark net: criminals, white hat hackers, black hat, three bags full hat, spooks, terrorists, money launderers, the military, banks, and the mere digitally curious. They're all battling it out, spotting or buying zero-day vulnerabilities, laying down sleeper viruses, herding bots in preparation for some future Armageddon. It's a 7-dimensional game of chess where you have only the vaguest idea of who your enemy is and what the hell they're actually up to. New dimensions are added the whole time. AI, blockchain, quantum computing. We're reaching a scale that humans can no longer comprehend. But to top it all, we are in a deep, deep political crisis, a crisis of leadership, and it is leading to serious conflict. The two biggest economies in the world, economies which are for the moment entirely mutually dependent on each other, are now on a collision course. And this has implications for financial stability, for growth, for supply chains, but above all else, this is a war about technology. And believe me, the gloves are off. Is it me, or is it weird that one of the most bitter great power disputes in recent times concerns an app that consists mainly of people dancing like chickens or skateboarding dogs? The battle for Huawei is even more important. It goes to the very heart of the question, who will control the future? China policy is bipartisan. It's one of the few issues on which Democrats and Republicans agree upon.
Every Chinese company like this is owned or controlled by the government. That's the way China works. So when you go on TikTok, China has your data.
European Union members have generally sided with the US against China, but they have already begun a mighty assault on Google, Facebook, and the usual suspects, which is not going down well either in Silicon Valley or in Washington. In recent weeks, Paris has been issuing large tax bills to the American digital giants, claiming they are exploiting loopholes to avoid paying their fair share. Washington has retaliated with taxes on physical goods. This is a huge headache for Joe Biden as he begins his presidency. So, can we assume that things are going to ramp down a little with Biden? Well, don't hold your breath just yet. As we've seen, suspicions of Chinese motives are bipartisan. And remember, the strategic competition with China was begun not with Trump, but under Obama when Biden was vice president. On the plus side, Biden clearly wants to restore America's battered reputation abroad, and he's going to need Chinese cooperation for big ticket issues that he's prioritized, like climate change. Risk comes in all shapes and sizes, sometimes out of left field after you think you've covered all your bases. Mondelez is a global giant. Cadbury's, Oreo, Ritz Crackers and Toblerone to name but a few of their products. They have a very effective cybersecurity regime, and if that fails, the board was sensible enough to buy one of the most comprehensive insurance packages against cyber risk. They thought everything was watertight. Nothing surely could go wrong. But in 2017, they fell victim to the incredibly destructive NotPetya virus, losing over $100 million as a consequence. So they went to their insurer, Zurich, and said, "Okay, mate, cough up." But Zurich wouldn't. They claimed that the NotPetya attack was an act of war, and they based this on the assessment of the Anglophone intelligence agencies in Five Eyes, the most extensive digital spy network in the world. Five Eyes said that NotPetya was backed by the Russian government. Zurich and Mondelez are still battling this out in the courts. Geopolitics and cybersecurity are now intimately entangled. The pandemic's greatest impact on cyber has been to accelerate digital transformation, the outsourcing of more or less everything into the cloud. But with great efficiencies come great potential dangers. SolarWinds is making everyone sit up. The sheer scale and complexity of SolarWinds software generates huge savings and efficiencies for companies and institutions. But in the era of the Internet of Things and cloud computing, when something goes wrong, the scale of the damage is concomitantly massive. Not only has the suspected Russian attack ripped through some of the most sensitive government departments, this latest hack confirms a rather extraordinary paradox. Until now, the greatest vulnerability to our cybersecurity has been human error and gullibility. This first major breach in the new era makes it clear how the vulnerability is no longer humans, but systems so big that humans no longer exercise the requisite oversight. But not even Superman can untangle the complexities of cybersecurity, technological competition, trade wars, the economic impact of COVID, and deepening political instability around the world. So don't expect Biden to wave a magic wand and have everything fixed in a couple of years. What this means for those of us in the real world of business and commerce is that we can no longer rely on governments. We have to rely on ourselves. For business, the key to survival rests on two pillars. One is a swift but intelligent digital transformation. The second, a smart company-wide cybersecurity strategy. Get them right, and despite everything, you will prosper.
So thanks so much to Misha for this production, and I apologize again to the audience for this video lagging just at the beginning. But it was a very interesting statement about the different influences in this video, from government to states to mafia that he stated, that Misha stated. It seems that we have some form of innovation also into these institutions. So we as Westcon also strongly believe into innovation. This is the theme of our event today, the Innovate to Differentiate. And we are very honored to have a great panel today to share and discuss how innovation will remain a key success factor beyond the COVID crisis. So today, co-hosting this panel with me will be Rakesh. So welcome, Rakesh.
Thanks again, Daniel.
Well, guys, would you like to introduce yourself? Maybe we can start by Sheriff. Good morning, Sheriff.
Hello. Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. This is Sharif Sleeman. I'm the president of international business at Infoblox, one of the market-leading companies focused actually on helping organizations with the transformation that we're all kind of reading about and hearing about for the past 2 days.
Thank you so much, Sharif, to be with us today. Simon?
Daniel, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Simon Williams, Palo Alto Networks. I'm the systems engineering manager for EMEA channels at Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks being the market-leading independent security vendor in the marketplace.
Thank you so much, Simon, to be with us again today. Do we have Clive?
Hi there.
Hello, Clive.
Hello, everybody. My name's Clive Finlay. I work in the Semantic Enterprise Division at Broadcom. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the APJ and EMEA region.
Thank you so much. So we have a great selection of 3 panelists, but now it's time to introduce the 4th panelist, which is you, the audience, as we did the first 2 days. So be a part of this panel and then influence directly what's being discussed. So in the form of a single word answer, the question is, as you could see on the screen, what do you see as the #1 change in security spending that will influence our channel mid to long term after the pandemic? This is the question. So please submit your one-word response into the chat field to the right of your screen and see your response pop up on the big screens. Vote up your peers' response that resonates with you and see real-time a work cloud built on the screen with the most popular responses displayed biggest. So we will have between one and 2 minutes, okay, to see how the vote goes and what kind of words we will be seeing as the answer of the question, which I repeat is, what do you see as the #1 change in security spending that will influence our channel mid to long term after the pandemic? So it seems that the cloud going. Rat, what would be your guess as the influence?
Some interesting ones there. Home automation, that's quite an interesting one of security spending. But I would say it's probably, it's going to be something like cloud or software as a service, maybe.
Simon, what would be your favorite?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I kind of think for me it's IoT, because it can encompass many of those many of those topics there. Home automation, that's an interesting one. But yeah, IoT for me is a key consideration moving forward.
Okay, so we will get another 30 seconds or so. Sharif, any first impression?
Well, I mean, I think if we take a look at the industry and much of the content and the videos that we've gone through so far, the biggest change in security spending will be, the move from spending in on-premise and data center to spending, in the access and the edge, as well as the way things are delivered. So I would say the closest thing here is cloud. Probably the proper term would be the as a service, consumption for and spending for security.
I do agree with that. Okay, I think that we're good. We could let me take some notes down. So there is the cloud first. Should be something like SASE and access. OPEC
is also pretty out there.
OPEC, very interesting. A deep fake. I don't know exactly what does it mean, but it seems that they want the real truth. Okay, and it seems that there is some conspiracy influences into this. So okay, so let's start. So very interesting results so far. So does this surprise you, Sheriff?
Not at all, because that's pretty much in line with what's happening with digital transformation. That is really kind of anchored in 2 important paradigm shifts: workforce transformation, people working from anywhere, and workload transformation, organizations moving much of their data and content and applications outside the data center into multi-cloud architectures and SaaS-based consumption models. So if you really take a look, Access and SASE, they go together. SASE and cloud, they go together. So I think the people that have kind of used these terms, they're all probably are centered around the right things.
So do you think that the spending will be around the SASE and the cloud? And what's about, because there is also the talk about as a service, how do you think that the investment will go, and that will be a pay-as-you-go, a pay-as-you-use, or because there was OpEx also in the word cloud? So Clive, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you see all the words there, and they're incredibly linked, aren't they? I think cloud, of course, it's a massive area. SASE is an architecture that supports cloud security. I saw zero trust up there as well. And of course, we were working from home more and more anyway prior to the pandemic. I mean, that's accelerated things, hasn't it? And so the way we look at things now, all of these things, working at home also helps organizations focus on that effort to move to cloud, because of course things are much more consumable, aren't they? I also saw in the middle there OpEx appear as well in the middle of one of the words. And you also, I think another interesting topic here is we talked about cloud as a service, but we're moving more and more to a subscription-based economy, aren't we? I mean, I saw last year that you can now start to subscribe to Porsche in the States and to change your motor car as you choose with a subscription. And you look at our industry and software, we've been moving to more subscription based from CapEx, but of course the cloud adoption really does support that move as well, that move from a spend perspective too.
And so do you think that, yeah, I saw this one, I'm a Porsche fan, so I saw that also. But do you think that, Simon, the fact that the end user could choose as an OpEx or CapEx or, building the big push and the influence on these ELA, the end user license agreement, will go up and down. So what do you think that the end user trend in terms of spending would be? Would be OpEx, CapEx, ELAs?
So look, I kind of echo what Clive said, right? If you look at the way us as consumers, as individuals work and consume technology at home, for example, the likes of Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of these on-demand video platforms, we are used to consuming technology in an on-demand subscription-based model. And that really moving forward, as our work environments have fundamentally changed in the last year, any decisions to support home working have been severely accelerated. We've proven that it works. So I think this normal that we're in now will continue. And I think that need for on-demand licensing, consumption-based licensing and payment will be the way forward.
And consumption up and down, or consumption plan consumption? What is your?
So I think baseline. Every organization should have a baseline and understanding of the number of users and consumers they have in their environment. That's a fundamental part of managing your infrastructure and availability. But my view is that the ability to burst, so the flexibility that model brings, so beginning of February last year, nobody knew what was about to happen. End of February, the world was very different. So again, there's a jump from number of users that maybe were working from home to everybody having to work from home. So I see a world of we have a baseline license where we can consume different capabilities and technologies, but we have the ability to in an emergency situation kind of burst our licensing immediately to expand our capabilities.
I couldn't agree more, and I think great analogy there is sort of Prime and Netflix. If you look at Prime, where as well as the video facilities, you have the delivery as part of that, and all sorts of services. And you look in our industry, I agree. Organisations now need the license flexibility to move around as well as they move to cloud, which is a big topic here. You've got big organizations that have huge legacy on-prem infrastructure, And they'll want to move at their leisure, maybe software licenses or hardware licenses to then a cloud-based security service as they move workloads and as they move data out. So I think there's even more demand now for the flexibility that the subscription model can provide, so that organizations can move during their digital transformation. And Simon mentioned there, of course, as where individuals are working home more and more, then the demands change as well, and that's going to be an ever-changing model.
Clive, it's really, both you and Simon have touched on it, the sort of this, by everyone working from home or working remotely, and it's almost there's a consumer mindset and behavior that's now definitely having a bigger impact on influencing businesses, because we're also used to a certain way of consuming things, getting things, buying them, having them delivered, so whether it is still physical products or subscribing to a service, and now work and home have just sort of melded into one place. How do you have any thoughts around how security organizations may be innovating to deal with that sort of end customer and consumer mindset now, that's going to impact in some way, the requirements that an organization is going to need to put in place, and how people's behavior, because probably that has always been one of the challenges in the security world. Behavior fundamentally influences how much risk potentially exists, and with everyone not being in the confines of an office and those sort of controls, what are you seeing from a technology perspective of how maybe to innovate or make life easier for those working remotely?
Yeah, there's a huge amount going on at the moment, and you're absolutely right. We're all consumers, but now when we're working home or working remotely, we expect the same ease of access as we do in our home life. Now we're accessing corporate applications and we're doing our jobs. So the innovation I'm seeing is coming from really getting that experience, getting the user experience and performance the same as at home as you're expecting from those consumer applications. Examples we got in the corporate world is, of course, as soon as we went into the pandemic and lockdown, one of the bigger pressure points from people suddenly working from home, if they had a laptop or a MacBook, was the capacity on VPN connections to get back into that infrastructure. And I know Simon made the point there about these spikes. And of course, that was one of the main spikes from people working from home was VPN. Now, of course, that's an inconvenience, isn't it? As an employee, I don't have to fire up a VPN when I'm at home shopping on Amazon or doing other things. So, that's one area, I think, straight away. If you can remove the VPN, and for employees to be working effectively at home to get that right experience, then that's caused all sorts of innovation from in the market we call it zero trust. The market term is zero trust network access devices. And so we call it secure access cloud, but there's software defined perimeters, another industry term, of course. So I'm seeing that's one area of innovation, is to provide secure gateway to access secure applications, whether it's an on-prem, a developer accessing on-prem mainframe to do some work from home, but securely without their VPN, or accessing legacy applications that a corporation has and just can't get into the cloud yet. So that's definitely seeing huge amounts of innovation in that area, accessing applications efficiently from home. And the second area I'll just mention as well is suddenly the service edge for security technology isn't the corporate data center as that perimeter removes. The service edge is the ISP next to where that user is at home. So suddenly, actually, when you look at all the security technology we're developing, we need to innovate for. We need to innovate to get peering and the security technology to the home and not to the data center. And that's causing a massive change in the market, because it is about now reach and points of presence into remote locations. If you're sat in India, or remote location South Africa, or wherever you may be, you need that performance as well. So that's for the second area, I'd say, is generating all sorts of innovation around peering and around connectivity and around where these applications, whether they're SASE or security related, where they sit and how you deliver that security to an employee. Because of course, latency is our enemy, isn't it? You don't want to be sat there waiting access a application because you don't for consumer applications.
Yeah, and sorry, right. The question is also when during this pandemic that we work remotely, the company did ask themselves the question, okay, where my security start and where the security of my provider starts, okay, or ends. So it's quite a tricky question, and that was something in the world cloud about SASE, of course, but as a service. So do you think that the end user, because we're talking about the spending here and what could be influencing the spending, do you think that the budget will be impacted by the end user budget, I'm talking about, would be impacted by the fact that the services will go on cloud? Because they have the budget, but in the conception, they will consume the technology differently. Do you think that it will have an influence on the budget, Simon?
Yeah, of course it will. Everything influences budget, right? I just want to make one thing, and just really to back up what Clive said, and I know Sharif mentioned this earlier as well. So before I get to the question in particular, you've got to look at a strategy, right? So the company, the organizations we're dealing with need to have a very clear strategy. Strategy will drive budget. A strategy is not buying a point product to solve a point issue. You need to have a very clear plan about how you are going to deploy efficient and effective security posture to protect your assets, whether that be intellectual property, whether that be staff. So I think we're in a world now where hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months, vaccinations are rolled out and we start to see the new normal. And I say the new normal, we will never go back to how it was. And I can see in a world now where when you join an organization, you get your welcome pack, you get your laptop, you get your mobile phone, your notebooks and everything else. Part of that could be a point of technology that you sit on your home network, another enforcement point. Now that could be home network, it could also be cloud deployed. But I can see a world now of where an organization will need to start factoring in the need to extend their traditional enterprise security and push that out further. And as Clive said, where is the boundary? Is it the ISP? Is it your home broadband router? We don't know because it's continuously changing. You could be tethered to a mobile phone. So it will change the way in which budgets work, and it will change where they sit. Do they sit with the individuals? Do they sit with enterprise information technology and security teams?
Yeah, there's an added perspective here to what Simon is saying. I don't think organizations are going to really think much about the provider security. If you really take a look, what will be left of organizations is just the brand name. I mean, this perimeter, where we kind of had the private network overhauled back to the data center via like MPLS circuits or something like that, that will all go away. The fabric of every business will fundamentally be the internet. And it's that same internet that will provide the speed and the flexibility of organizations deploying applications, content, and services in many clouds and different, private SaaS with different private SaaS providers. It's that same internet that will bring incredible amount of risk. The video right before this session has highlighted that actually brilliantly. So the new perimeter will become a universal thing. And that's why ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, what Clive's talking about, is emerging as a way for the industry to handle that. The true edge is not the office, because when you take a look at SASE, it came right before the pandemic, and it was basically talking about, hey, the move from the data center, because now offices will have direct internet access. 70-80% of our organizational resources, data, content, and applications will be outside the data center. So why, therefore, am I paying expensively for MPLS circuits and creating a private network when everything is, in a public domain? But then the pandemic came and actually created a very extreme example of what the edge or the access layer is, which is the working from home. But we don't know in the future, we don't know what the future holds. Meaning, are we really going to get back to an office? We will work from home. If you take a look, organizations like Telstra and Google and others have actually revised their real estate policies. Take a look at Telstra in Australia. They've just eliminated offices. This is their mode of operandi moving forward. There will be no offices for employees. So at the end of the day, and this would not be the first pandemic, and this would not be the last pandemic, and let's call it pandemic crisis. So organizations have to build forecast-tolerant infrastructures, forecast-tolerant, presence that really can cope. Because I think what COVID has done is really taught us that the way we were planning for business continuity and so on and so forth is by no means we were really prepared. So zero trust networking basically says that the real perimeter is the identity. But the legacy definition of the identity was centered around your username and password. And now the real definition of an identity, as we're learning all together, is not just the username and password that just basically says that you're a legitimate user of an organization, but you have to take into perspective the context, a person's location, the device they're using, the state of that device, whether it's actually secure from malware or not, or secure from other kind of things or not. It could be a time of day, correct? So I'll give you an example. So Clive, my friend, is coming to visit me here in Dubai, and we want to do some joint planning. He walks in, and let's say he works for Infoblox. He walks into the Dubai office, he plugs into the guest access network, he gets an IP that just does nothing but actually allow him access to the internet. And the minute he clicks on anything that's Infoblox, whether it's the email, a CRM, whatever application or content he wants, he has to be authenticated. And at the authentication time, we need to determine, is Clive using, a device that is, aligned with the company policy? Is he located in a place that allows him to access the data or the applications? Because moving forward, applications and data will all be classified. Just because you're a legitimate user doesn't really mean your context, your location, time of day would actually allow you to have access to that. So that identity basically becomes a vector of multiple things, and based on these things, you will be assessed in real time and you will be given access. And that time, the consumerization of the enterprise that we're talking about, basically blending the user consumer identity and the user professional identity being at home, will no longer be an issue, because at the end of the day, it will be all this compliance will be delivered right from the cloud. And having something like VPN would not really be needed. And by the way, VPNs today have actually proven in the pandemic that while they may be able to provide a privacy service, they're not really providing a security service.
It's interesting, very interesting, Sharif. And and I agree with you. With if you looked at this going back a year, probably most organizations probably did not have a section around pandemics in their disaster recovery plans, right? It's probably just one of those things that wasn't expected. There's a lot of expectations of offices not being accessible, or certain, in certain countries, never something globally. And so obviously they had to quickly adapt to change. And I like the thinking around this, easier access to those corporate applications from wherever you're sitting. But I suppose, the question is, how do those end customers think about budgeting and planning for this going forward? When everything's changing, and I think we probably realize nobody's all just going back to the office. So this isn't a short-term thing. We have to change the way we execute in technologies for users. But organizations are probably struggling with this of where to invest right now, and do they wait, or do they move forward on infrastructure type projects? So it would be interesting, from the panel, what the views are around budgeting and the way forward. Simon, maybe from your side, some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so quite clearly, waiting is not an option. Security, the threat, the adversaries continue to develop, continue to become more complex. We saw that with SolarWinds, supply chain attack, massive impact. So unfortunately, waiting is not an option. We can't just sit back and wait and see what happens. So, our customers, certainly the customers we're speaking to and dealing with at the moment, are continuing to invest, but they're investing, as I said, right at the outset, in a strategy, not in product. So they're looking at, how is my environment developing? What is my SASE strategy? What is my Internet of Things strategy? What other factors are affecting my users? And they're applying a strategy and continuing to invest in that strategy. And that gives them the flexibility to be dynamic in how they deploy that technology and how they develop that strategy moving forward.
Clive, from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with what Simon says there around organizations need to look at their cyber defense as a whole, because it's the only way you can figure out your budget. If you try and budget for I need to secure this cloud application and then the next application, or my data over here, you're not going to get anywhere. And because, as you say, our working environment is changing more and more. If the organization is looking at it holistically like that, and looking at securing the identities of their employees, their devices, and their data wherever it resides, then that's a good basis to then budget for really a hybrid security infrastructure. Because if you're looking at it that way, and you're looking at how do I secure my data, my critical assets, maybe today they're in a NAS file share in a data center, maybe tomorrow they're in OneDrive, or they're in some S3 buckets in Amazon Web Services. So if you're looking at it that way, then you can budget for software or cloud services that support the security of those assets, of those identities, and as they move, and as the business moves, those applications will move those workloads. So that's the way to tackle the budget problem, is look at it as and that's why I think we talked already about SASE and Zero Trust. I mean, Zero Trust is a fantastic framework to think about. Never trust, always verify users, networks, data, and SASE is a great architectural principle to then start thinking about cloud technologies. The perimeter disappears, but obviously let's not forget, in most companies there's a huge amount of infrastructure still on premise, and therefore the budget needs to satisfy that movement. Because the big challenge we're seeing with a lot of organizations, I'm sure, is of course there's a short period of time sometimes where you are duplicating on-premise security infrastructure and cloud as workloads or data is moving, and of course there's never twice the budget to do that. So that's obviously that's a huge challenge.
Extremely important point. Sharif, from your perspective then, because obviously we're talking about the needs of the end customers that we all ultimately service. But the majority of people on the event today would be partners. And what guidance would you give them around that, in terms of the conversations that they would be having with their customers, and how to come up with these strategies and evolve into this? Because there isn't a limitless bucket of funds available, but the priorities are clear.
Yeah, and look, my answer also is anchored around a couple of things that Simon and Clive all I've said multiple times now in their answers, is we always have to have a strategy, and by the partners they're no different. Today, when you really take a look, the past 2 decades, partners have really made a lot of their money from resale. They put margins on software, margins on hardware. The clever ones and the more advanced ones also extracted money from the services, the implementation, the integration, all of that. And when you really take a look much of the complexity that partners have had to really invest and use, to monetize their presence and their businesses is actually gone. The cloud and SaaS abstracts a lot of the complexity. I'm not going to say that there's no more complexity and there's no room for partners, but the legacy way of looking at that is gone. So when you really take a look, think about it. What are you really seeing in the market today? Is it when it comes to SaaS services and the move, to cloud, whether born in the cloud companies, like the Zscalers or companies like Infoblox that have had very, strong market leadership, and they're pivoting, to SaaS, or anything in between, like, Palo Alto, who's had a legacy and they've kind of bought their way into SaaS. So however you look at the vendors, what we really see is a composite of services. And there's no one vendor that's going to really be able to deliver it all. There's too many moving parts. And by the way, when you really take a look at this kind of public domain, architecture where the internet becomes the real fabric, for the digital economy, there's so much vastness in terms of the need for innovation. And accordingly, organizations will actually have to embrace, multiple services. And by the way, not only from an infrastructure, networking, content delivery, and security, and so on, but also take a look at, your CRMs and your HRMS and all the business systems, the KYCs for banks. That's all also coming through SaaS. So the massive opportunity for partners here is to adopt a different mindset. And actually, like, Simon said, the world that we're in right now is going to even get more sophisticated. So anybody that's sitting there saying, hey, I can't wait for the vaccine to achieve herd immunity and this kind of pandemic is behind us, can't wait really to go back and do this and that. Well, depending on what this and that is a pipe dream. So buckle up, embrace the new world. And specifically for all of us on this call and in this conference, we're all seasoned IT professionals. And outside, Clive, probably, who's independently wealthy, and as I heard, and has lots and lots of money, he doesn't need to work. He's doing it for a hobby. Like Simon and myself, and the rest of you guys in the audience, we all have to work, and probably have to work for the next decade to focus on putting our kids through universities and take care of our families, correct? So we have to reinvent ourselves. Partners have probably a tall order, because the only opportunity for them here is to actually go and become cloud brokers. They have to build, this kind of virtual, stack of multiple composite, SaaS and cloud-based services, and be able to actually streamline the procurement and the deployment of these things, of these services, because customers are not going to have the swivel chair effect of, hey, I'm going to go to Clive and buy the following couple of services, and then I'm going to jump to Simon and I buy these couple of services, and I'm going to go to Sharif and buy the couple. That will never scale. Customers want simplicity. And to me, this actually makes partners in a very important seat right now. In fact, this transformation, I think, plays to the advantage of partners, but those who are actually going to, grab the bull by the horn.
Yeah, can I just add to that? That's a really good point as well, right? So, and again, it's much more than about now, where we are selling a technology or a service to a customer. This partner opportunity, the opportunity they have for services is ongoing. It's a continuation, because as we've all said, security does not stand still. The environments we're in do not stand still. They keep evolving, they keep changing, the adversaries change. Hopefully it never happens again, but it will. There'll be another pandemic and another challenge. Every day things are changing, and it's important that we help our customers be as secure as they can be by continually working with them, assessing, adapting the environments in which they work. That really is extremely important. And just to put a real life example, Daniel mentioned at the outset, he's a Porsche fan. I'm a Porsche fan as well. I guess everybody is. You can go and buy the car. It doesn't mean you know how to drive it. So, Porsche and other sports car manufacturers give you a driver training day. That's where the partner comes in, teach you how to use the products you have, how to get the best out of it, how to realize a good return on your investment in this, this asset. And that's exactly where partners sit, in my personal view. Just a relevant example from the Porsche discussion.
Yeah,
It is, isn't it?
I think that you are spot on, and that was brought a couple of times during these days, and again this morning with Rack during his presentation about the circuit. It's not just to sell the services and install the services; it's to make sure that the end user will use properly the services that our customer, the audience, has installed. So this is a critical point. And then going back to the end user to make sure that he's well trained, well educated, he knows the different features that he has in services that he acquired. Okay, that would be for me the paramount of the service that the resellers need to offer. And we will support them, okay, because of what Rack showed this morning about the circuit and the different steps and the tech refresh, and so that would be really good for the end user. So, but I have still a lot of questions to ask. Unfortunately, okay, we need to wrap up and give the audience some breaks, of course. And I would like to thank you so much. That was a really interesting conversation this morning, and I would like to thank you all, Sheriff, Rack, Simon, and Clive, to attend this panelist conversation and share your thoughts and advice with the audience. So, as you know, this morning presentation, I hope that did inspire the audience, and you also, the panelists, but also that you have during the break you can go to the virtual booth and talk with the experts. You have some video chat. You have also the treasure hunt shields hidden in the booth that will help you to win an iPhone 12 or a Galaxy S21. Alternatively, of course, you can go and test your speed and memory, as I said in the introduction, in our game, a speed game during the break, and win prizes. And that is sponsored by Paul Secure again today. After the break, around 12:35 CET, the agenda will continue in our breakout session. And today, as you know, we will go through the SASE market. So I hope that you have a good morning with us, a few hours spent with us. And for my part, we will be together again this afternoon during the Westcon Security Partner Award ceremony. And I wish that a lot of you will be there with me, because there is a lot of awards and recognition. So thank you so much, and join our vendor partners into the break room this afternoon. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the auditorium. So I'm very happy and excited to present this ceremony award for the Westcon Security Award partners. So it has been an incredible agenda today. So I hope that you did enjoy it. And now, as I said, it's time to celebrate. So today, this event has been a great opportunity to assess the road ahead in optimizing future readiness and driving innovation as a core business with business value. We really hope that you have taken the time to have some insights, some valuable insight. And without an eye on the future threats and trends, we will lose leadership position and relevance. But it's equally important to look and appreciate what you have achieved together already. So we want to recognize some outstanding reseller partners that have demonstrated that together with Westcon support and innovative future-facing strategy, the journey to innovate and differentiate is well on its way. So this is why I'm very happy to award and these 7 accolades. So we will award today the global reach, the partners with the software leadership, the VARs with the solution integration, a best cloud success, a great business expansion, service enablement, and finally, we will award the rising star for us in EMEA. So let's start with the Global Reach Award, the first award. This customer trades with Westcon on 44 countries, 27 in EMEA, 17 in APAC, and do more than $100 million in EMEA only, in addition to a lot of local-to-local business as part of multinational rollouts. With this customer's largest global, we are the customer largest global distributor with a very close relationship in country, regional, and global level built over a lot of years. They have a clear focused strategy of globalizing key operation, such as renewal, quotes to invoice, technical and support services, and e-commerce. So thanks to all these global assets, I'm very happy to reward NTT for the best global reach. Congratulations, NTT. So the next one. For the Software Leadership Award, let me describe the Saudi Arabia-based partner. They are the leading telco managed services provider. We have built a deep relationship over the last 7 years, and they have developed in a true cybersecurity leader in the Middle East region with a wide solutions offering from DDoS, endpoint protection, and next-gen firewalls. Their managed security services and enterprise customer offerings has redefined the Saudi Arabian software security landscape. Therefore, I'm delighted to offer the Software Leadership Award to Solutions by STC. So congratulations, Solutions by ATC. The next one. Now, the Cloud Success Award. The recipient has been driving cloud adoption and built a scalable strategy for cloud security. They have been hosting webinars and exec roundtables to drive adoption and educate their client base. It's been a steady process, but the pinnacle was a closing out of a large Palo Alto Prisma Access 7-digit deal over a 3-year period. Several other of the end users are adopting this technology with now a sizable pipeline building for the business. For all of these great achievements, the Cloud Success Award goes to CAE. So congratulations again, CAE. For the next one, this is a very special one for me, the Solution Integration Award. This company for over 15 years has been working closely with us in a trustful partnership, particularly in the security division and in Germany. We were able to participate in many framework agreements and celebrate the success together. In the last year's security tender, they once again placed Westcon in their trust, with the largest portfolio in our joint history to date. So I'm very honored to offer the Solution Integration Award to Computer Center. So congratulations again, Computer Center. Great work. Let's celebrate business expansion now. This VAR is a #1 partner in Greece. Since the beginning of our relationship in cybersecurity, they are a very strong partner in building a new channel in Greece, thanks to their high skills. We grew our business with a triple-digit year-on-year. I'm delighted to celebrate on our business expansion with Pylones. Now let's go to the Service Enablement Award. This reseller has been absolutely strategic in Northern European region, showing significant growth in multiple revenue streams across the regions, including product and accelerated service sales. The collaboration and work together shown in new routes to market and joint go-to-market ventures has yielded great results for both organizations. I'm proud to offer the Service Enablement Award to Orange Cyber Defense. So congratulations, Orange. Now let's go to the Rising Star Award. This Nigeria-based ICT solutions provider supporting customers across Africa. This company has invested in developing a wide set of competence, sales, and technical resources internally that can advise and guide customers towards incredible security solutions that meet their needs. It is also the first platinum level F5 partner in the rest of Africa. They never take shortcuts on quality, and as such, do have a very loyal set of customers who trust them with their infrastructure and guiding their digital future. Westcon has partnered with their VARs to support their ventures across Africa to build a credible client base through a robust set of security vendor solutions, and through our credible logistics services offer superior operational support in meeting client expectations in all transactions. And the Rising Star Award goes to Tretten. So congratulations, Tretten. So congratulations to all the award winners. We are, as Westcon, honored to work with such a great community of partners. We are better together. So we come to the end of our agenda. This brings me to conclude to this great event. We appreciate you taking the time of your business to join us throughout these 3 days, which has been very successful from our point of view, and hope that your time was well spent. You will be able, of course, to stream the full event on demand across the 3 days and across the main points that you may have taken. So there is a couple points that I would like to mention. First of all, the impact of COVID will outlast the pandemic. Besides the economical impact, it has been a catalyst for the digital transformed business, which comes a reality. Security spending, as IDC stated, is up to 38%. Insecurity in the market, new and unknown challenges drive customers to lean on their technology providers, so you, for your expertise, advice, because they can trust you. Flexible solutions will reduce risk of implementing new solutions. So, my overarching messages would be the following. We, as a channel, resellers, DST, vendors, have to be very proactive and stay relevant. We need to constantly assess opportunities to innovate to support our customers of the new threats. 69% of our customers are looking to reevaluate their technology. As direct results of COVID, and I have one question, do you have the technology and solutions in place to serve their current future needs? And my last point would be, the channel innovation needs to serve the increasing demand of consumption models, managed services offerings, pay-as-you-go models, customer lifecycle frameworks. This is all the points that we mentioned during the 3 days. And the buying decision makers are changing. So we need to ask ourselves the question, do we have the right mechanism in place to accommodate this? So, Westcon is your partner to embrace the journey to become the VAR of the future. Our experience and expertise in cybersecurity, our dedicated next generation solutions go-to-market, individual and teams, will drive exactly these technologies to enable this journey. From the cloud to the digital transformation, generating recurring revenue for you. Our large team and security expert in your country, locally, working closely with you, will support you in every way you need. Our extensive services offer will support you. Our second to none technology vendor portfolio will support you. And our ever evolving channel tools, such as Circuit, we talked about it, Westcon Intelligent Demand, Paul did talk about it yesterday, is the solutions that we can offer you to grow your business. So, the time to innovate, to differentiate is now. So take action. Reach out to your account manager to start the journey. Let's explore different go-to-market models or support offerings. See the solutions out there serving the highest growth security market in action. We went through 4 of them during the past 3 days. The quickest way to do that, request a callback in the event survey on the right of your screen now. You will receive access to the full event on demand stream shortly. Also, keep an eye open out of the Imagine follow-up events calendar, diving deeper into the areas that we discussed over the last 3 days. So, personally, I would like to thank you all again, and also our panelists, our speakers, our vendors, our hosts, and even more so, I would like to thank you, all the people who attend the 3-day event and our partner community. Let's go innovate. Let's go to the future. And the future is there for us to take. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.